just read across the screen. Not really anywhere to hide. There were a few gainers that I could find, but the NASDAQ 100 down more than 3% right now. I'm looking at NVIDIA, which has shed more than $270 billion in market cap in a single day, Katie. If this holds, that'll be the record for the most, beating Meta.
Yeah, it's pretty ugly. At least you have the bond market at your back right now. I mean, you do have a hedge that's out there, and it's good news because you take a look across the stock market right now, from big to small, pretty much every sector in the red right now.
Pretty much every sector. There are a couple of sectors like utilities or staples that are holding up a little bit better. I look at volume, and it is zooming up 18% on the 20-day average after an entire month in which we saw it below the 20-day average. It's refreshing to see all this movement back into equities, even if it is on the downside.
Where's the money going, guys? Bond market, and it's going to the yen at the end of the day. I mean, that's where you're seeing the safety trades, particularly in the long end of the 10-year.
I'm glad you brought that up because we kind of forget that a lot of times this is all relative, right? It's the money comes out, but it actually has to find a home somewhere. And we were talking earlier, Alex, with Jeff Curry, who's now over at Carlyle at Energy Pathways, and he was kind of making that point, particularly when it comes to the commodity trade.
Yeah, he was saying the carry unwind is also in the oil trade, that you could see a snap up if the unwind happens.
All right, of course, we did have crude settle lower, back down around that 70 level in New York and down below that 75 level in London. As for equities here in the U.S., red across the board. A Dow Jones Industrial Average down more than 600 points, or about 1.5%. An S&P 500 down more than 100 points, or 2.1%. Your NASDAQ composite is going to close out the day lower by about 577 points, or 3.2%. And take a look at the Russell 2000 here. Not your laggard, believe it or not. That actually belongs to the NASDAQ, but the Russell's still down 68 points, or 3.1%.
There were, believe it or not, about 150 stocks, 149 to be exact, in the S&P 500, 147, still getting settled. That did move higher today, that were in the green. 354 stocks, Scarlet, did move lower.
All right, so let's take a look at the IBAT, because as the three major indexes, the four, if you include the Russell 2000, show a lot of red, there are some green slices there. Consumer staples up by 0.8%. You have names like Molson Coors gaining. Also, real estate investment trusts, REITs, up by 0.3%. And then you've got the flip side, the decliners. Tech really getting hit hard, especially those semiconductor names like NVIDIA. Energy stocks losing 2.4% as oil prices unwind, and communication services losing 2.3%.
All right. Well, you mentioned a couple of these sectors that are actually in the green, and a couple of the names as well. Defensive names higher today, one of those being AT&T, up by 2.8%. It's actually, in the day, reached its highest going all the way back to February of 2023. Another stock higher, and this one is kind of a sort of an outlier because it's not necessarily a defensive play, but there was some news around an upgrade. Unity Software shares, they gained as much as 11% earlier in the session. The company was upgraded to overweight from equal weight at Morgan Stanley. The bank sees clear potential for upward revisions in the toolmakers create business and greater stability in the grow segment. Unity up by 2% today. And then, Scarlett, you mentioned Molson Coors, ticker TAP, another defensive name that's higher today. No fundamental reason why, just the fact that it is defensive, but there was some news around the company, not why it's higher. The company did come out and say, like a lot of other companies in recent months, it's cutting back some of its corporate diversity efforts, joining a corporate retreat hastened by an anti-DEI social media campaign, Katie.
All right, an embarrassment of riches when it comes to decliners today. I have to start with the big one. I have to start with NVIDIA, closing down 9.5%. That, of course, is its worst day in about a month or so, August 5th, and not really on any news, as we know, just that maybe the calendar flipped and it dragged down all the semi-names with it. So NVIDIA,
can I correct you, Katie? This is the part I love doing with Carol when I get to correct her. It's actually down the most since April, but...
Well,
nobody's counting.
Well, if you look intraday, it's down by the most since August 5th. You have to check the box on since.
Okay, keep going. Romaine, what do you have?
On a closing basis.
Come on.
There you go. Down. But at least when it comes to intraday, worst day since August 5th. Let's move on. Let's talk about U.S. Steel, of course.
Wait, did you just correct me?
I did.
That's why
I don't like,
Katie,
I don't like when the tables are turned on me, Katie. You know that.
Well, before I get kicked out of this simulcast.
She's not coming back tomorrow at this rate.
Let me go through the other decliners on the day. U.S. Steel. This was an interesting political story. Of course, Kamala Harris saying that U.S. Steel should remain American-owned and run. This is Joe Biden's position as well. It's It's also Donald Trump's position, but there had been some optimism that maybe she'd break ranks here. She did not, and of course, that added up to a pretty big loss for U.S. Steel. And then we got to talk about Boeing, of course, the story that gives on giving here. This coming from a Wells Fargo downgrade, the downdraft that we saw today. Wells Fargo coming out, downgrading the stock and also setting a street low price target. Basically, the rationale there is that it's hard to see upside in the shares from this point. That was good for another 7.3% decline for what's already been a very, very ugly stretch for Boeing.
Yeah, so where did the money go, guys? I mentioned it earlier, and it went into the bond market. It also went into the yen. But you did see buying across the curve. You saw the 10-year yield down by about 6 basis points, the 2-year down by about 4. We did see more of a robust rally in the back end earlier, but as the day went on, we kind of lost a little bit of that. The question now becomes, can you, at this point, chase the bond rally, particularly when the 2-10 spread is again sort of nearing that parity level by about 3 basis points?
I am also curious here about kind of the positioning heading into, obviously, a big week for data with the jobs report on Friday, and then in about 2 weeks' time, of course, we get the actual Fed meeting itself here, and how much of this is related to that as well.
Yeah, one question that Katie and I have been asking throughout our program is like, okay, what changed in the 3 days between Friday and today, apart from a 3-day weekend and people coming back from vacation? Like, what was the fundamental data that we got today, or what's the news that the market's reacting to? I can think of ISM, but other than that, what else is out there that could spur something like this?
I was curious too, because I looked at that too, but the stocks were already kind of weak before that data came out. So I don't know. I mean, the answer, Tim, is I think a lot of people, maybe all the bears were gone in August because they were all on vacation up there and, wherever they go, and maybe they came back today.
All right, we have some earnings, believe it or not. I know that we keep talking about how earnings have ended, but Zscaler has just come out with numbers. And for the quarter that ended, fourth quarter revenue was $592.9 million. That does beat the average analyst estimate, and adjusted EPS was 18 cents better than what analysts were looking for. In terms of revenue, for the current quarter, it sees first quarter revenue of up to $606 million from 604 to 606. Analysts were looking for somewhere in the neighborhood of 604.8 million, and full year revenue will be 2.6 billion to 2.62 billion, very narrow range, while analysts are looking for 2.63 billion. So that outlook being a little bit lighter than anticipated is pushing that stock lower, and you can see the losses deepening here, more than 5% down in after hours trade.
Meanwhile, you have GitLab, of course, the coding and software platform, coming out with their fiscal second quarter results, $182 million in revenue in the most recent quarter. That was a beat. EPS coming in at 15 cents a share. That was also a beat. Its guidance for the full year, revenue in the range of 742 to 744 million, also a beat there. And their guidance on adjusted EPS for the full year, guys, 45 cents to 47 cents. That's about 10 cents higher on the high end of what the street was looking for.
I'm digging into the GitLab press release, and the company's CEO coming out and saying that the results show the combination of end-to-end platform and AI solutions are driving results for our customers by aligning to business goals, providing measurable benefits, Katie, and improving security.
And it's a good reminder that earnings season is not over. It never ends, as I like to say. You think about sort of the complexion of this week. Yes, we have a lot of economic data to look forward to, but we also have Dollar Tree earnings. We have Hormel Foods. We have Hewlett Packard Enterprises. We also have Broadcom, which of course was caught up in today's sell-off with NVIDIA dragging down the whole sector. So a lot to parse into when it comes to the individual micro names as well.
Well, not only that, but you take a look at the semis in general, right? And there was a report out that showed that semi sales were off by about, 11% in July on a month-on-month basis. That comes from UBS. So as a whole, sort of dealing with that cyclicality in the chip market, despite that structural shift when it comes to AI.
Yeah, I'm looking at the declines. Just as a final number here, the biggest drop for the Philadelphia Semiconductor Index since March of 2020, since the pandemic, losing 9.8% on the day. All 30 members lower.
Yeah, and this gets to the thing, though. What was sold today, right? Was it just kind of those high flyers and people either taking some of those profits or protecting against further losses, or was it something? Was it something broader?
Well, what would you consider Apple? Would that be a high flyer, or would that be a sort of something broader?
Like that's a steady Eddie almost.
It's a steady Eddie, 2.72% to the downside today. Microsoft down 1.8%.
Compared to its peers, that's not bad, right?
Yeah.
Are you going to get one of those new AI-powered iPhones that is supposed to come out?
Supposed to be unveiled, next week?
Unveiled? I heard there's not going to be any AI in it, though.
Remains to be seen.
Right?
I don't really need a new phone yet.
Do you guys remember the Best Buy earnings from last week? Was it Best Buy?
That was a long time ago.
Well, it was last week.
Oh, I have a Best Buy story. We don't have time for it, though.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah, we actually went into Best Buy this weekend.
Oh.
Yeah.
Did you buy stuff?
Scarlet Fu. Yeah, we did. We bought a school computer, and it was an experience. Let's just say.
Were the store shelves bare, or were they full?
Let's just say they need to work on customers.
Did you walk out with a computer?
Yeah.
You did walk out with a computer. You were able
We
to
did,
successfully.
yeah.
Okay. All right. Mission accomplished
Absolutely.
then. That is going to do it for our
Yeah.
cross-platform coverage of the market close on Bloomberg TV, Radio,
Oh, boy.
YouTube, and Bloomberg Originals. We are all going to be back here tomorrow, same time, same place. We'll see you later.